apartment 3. Vampires have a midnight book club tea. Mummy's jogging with his bandages loose. Frankenstein's charging his phone with the lightning boost. Oh, the neighbors are strange, but they're kinda cool. A ghoul in the pool, zombies breaking the rules. Don't mind the creaks or the occasional roar, 'cause there's more monsters next door. Invisible man keeps stealing my fries. Creature from the lagoons got chlorine in his eyes. Dracula's mirror is cracked, no reflection to see. And the skeletons DJing at the local spree. Spiders in the mailbox, bats in the tree. A haunted house party every night for free. Oh, the neighbors are strange, but they're kinda cool. Ghoul in the pool, zombies breaking the rules. Don't mind the creaks or the occasional roar, 'cause there's more monsters next door. More monsters next door. More monsters next door.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Damn Show on the Critical Blast podcast. I'm your host, Damascus Mintzmeyer. Our regular host, RJ Carter, isn't here tonight because he's been recruited by a secret government agency known as the Men in Black and no longer officially exists. Which means I'll be interviewing our guest, Logan Spurgeon, solo tonight. Logan's debut novel, Hinterland, was released this past December from Quill and Crow Publishing House. And for the next hour, we'll be discussing cults, cannibalism, identity, and the power of belief. Hi, Logan. It's nice to have you as a guest. I always like to start my shows with this question, which is, who are you, what do you do, and why do you do it?
That's a great question. Hi, it's good to see you. My name is Logan Spurgeon. I am an author, and I think the reason I am an author is because I love to tell stories. I love horror specifically. I love to sort of examine the darker side of things in this world, and that's who I am, what I do. I live in Kentucky right now. I'm originally from Texas. I was once in a cult, and I'm sure we'll get into all of that.
Definitely.
I became an author. I started writing I've always been writing, and I decided to make it my sort of like dream goal a few years ago, and I just published my first novel.
Yeah, and what a novel it was. I really enjoyed this. It actually made number 3 on my top 10 list this past year.
Thank you.
Because
that's awesome.
it really it was a very intriguing book. So tell us about Hinterland. Tell us about what the plot is and the central characters.
Sure. So the story of Hinterland, it's a wilderness survival horror story about a cult in the woods. The story follows Kestrel, who is our main character. He wakes up in the wilderness, doesn't know who he is, doesn't know where he is. He has no name, no memories, and he's surrounded by 12 other strangers, and there's a body on an altar on fire. And the whole story is him trying to figure out what is going on as he is sort of forced to be in this cult. And he has to figure out who his friends are, who he can trust, who he can't trust, all while he's trying to escape. And during that process, he starts to grow hungry for flesh and to sort of figure out like how to fight that off.
Right. So I've always been fascinated by cults. Like I've read about, I don't know, ever since I was a teenager, I've always found them fascinating to read about and to watch documentaries about. But you actually have like firsthand experience with this, which goes right into the book. And in the introduction to Hinterland, you discuss the origin stemming from your time in a doomsday cult.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you could go into detail about that, as I found that fascinating. I found that extraordinarily fascinating to read about as an introduction to the book.
Yeah, it wasn't originally in there, and my editor, she really encouraged me to write a foreword for it to kind of give a little backstory. So I'm very grateful that she did that. I was in a doomsday cult, which I didn't fully realize until years after I was out of it. I was in a cult that it was specifically based off Christianity. Its whole purpose was essentially to speed up the end of the world. And the way they did that was through a variety of things: prayer, worship, evangelism. They were obviously wanting more people. They would convince a lot of young adults like me. I first heard about it when I was in high school. They would convince a lot of young adults that the world is going to come to an end soon, and you should really give up everything. Don't go to college. Sometimes don't get married. Give up your relationships, give up your family, come and join us. Now, I wasn't necessarily sold on all of those, but I was sold on some of them. And I decided to join, again, not knowing it was a cult at the beginning. And when I was there, it had really ballooned. And there were so many people there that I think the culty nature almost got lost in some way because they couldn't control and manage it well. So I was there for 4 years, and I had been involved sort of with them for a couple years beforehand. Was there for 4 years, and then I left due to some events, and slowly started to realize how cultish it was, how much the beliefs were cultish. And then there was a big scandal that unfolded in 2023. And so that really kind of, I was already like, maybe they're a cult, maybe not, but they have these beliefs that I don't really like. And then all of these things started unfolding that I was like, oh, this is 100% a cult.
Right, and that ties directly into the novel, because they are the group that Kester Wake finds himself in is definitely a cult.
Definitely.
Like, no bones about it. Absolutely. And the thing that I really like how the book examines like religion and cults, because if you really think about it, where does one end and one begin? Because all religions start as a cult, if you think about it. So where does cult end, and where does a cult turn into a sect and like into a religion? Because there's like a slow evolution there from one to the other to the other. And I've always found that fascinating to read about, and you cover that very well in the introduction. You cover it well in your real life experience, but also translate into the novel very well, because you have characters like Lynx and Hudson, who are like the leader and the prophetess, so to speak. And Kestrel has like this, he's the outsider, but we only have his point of view, and we don't, because he has amnesia, we don't really get any outside perspective at all. So we just have the cult, like their parameters to see the story with. And if you look at it, like Hudson, like when she has like her sacred items that she like casts the bones and read them, and they're just like junk,
Yeah.
But they're just like random bits of junk, and Kestrel's looking at this and he's all like, this is just like junk. But she, as the story progresses, I don't want to give it away, as the story progresses, perhaps they're not junk after all. So it kind of blurs the line between cult, religion, how one forms into the other, and I found that absolutely fascinating to read about.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting because most cults have a basis of some religion. They start in some way or form, and I think there is definitely a fine line between a mainline religion and these more culty sects that do kind of break off and change some things, and have very different beliefs than a lot of other religions. And right. I found it very interesting. After I left the cult, I went on to get my master's in theology. And I remember sitting in a class one day on church history, and they were talking about how the Romans believed that Christians were a part of a cannibalistic cult. And
Right, of course, I can see that.
that was
Eating the
because
flesh, eating the
they're
flesh and
eating the
drinking the
flesh and
blood,
drinking the
right?
blood. And so I think that sort of lodged in my mind way back then. That was probably in like 2018, 2019. And so I always had that kind of in the back of my mind about how these things start and what is the line between these more dangerous beliefs and then beliefs that are, maybe helping the common people, helping the common good, that sort of thing.
Right.
So I was always very interested in those sort of things.
Yeah, and there's like because one could argue that Christianity itself began as like a cult because it was an offshoot of Judaism in the very, very beginning. So one could argue that
Right.
Christianity started as a cult. But what I like about Kestrel's point of view, because we don't get any outside narrative outside of the cult members, is that it's almost like an unreliable narrative in some way, because you don't know if what Lynx and Hodson and all the others are telling him is true or not. And we
Right.
find out as it goes one way or the other. But was that something intentional, or was it just developed during the writing process, like that unreliable sort of narrative feel to it?
No, that was very intentional. I wanted there to be this air of mystery around it, and I wanted the reader to almost assume that all of it was made up and that these people are just crazy. And I think that's the thing about being in these sort of religious systems, is that there are things that sound really far out there, but then you have people that are so convinced that they've seen something or experienced something that it's really easy to sort of say, like, did this happen? Did that not happen? You're saying you have evidence. I don't know. It's this kind of muddy area to be in when you're dealing with these with religious groups. And so I wanted to put that in the book. I wanted to kind of be this, is this a real religion? Are there deities, or are these people just making this up? And I really like that, of the sort of air of mystery for most of the book. I don't want to spoil anything, but you do sort of find out some of the truth on if there's really something in the wilderness, or if it's just humanity.
I also like the aspect of the hunters and how there was like the military, almost like a demilitarized zone outside of the mountains, and we get like a little hints of that, or like the wider implications of what's going on, which I found also fascinating, because like you said, you just get the little tiny little hints of it, but it's like that air of mystery in there. I really like that part too. You don't actually get like Kestrel. I have to remind people that Kestrel has amnesia this whole time. Like in the whole book, he doesn't remember who he is at all. And I think it's implied that none of them, when they initially joined the cult, actually remember who they were beforehand. And some of them may or may not have known each other beforehand, because the burgeoning romance between Kestrel and Shrew, which I found very endearing to watch develop, because it was very natural and very sincere, but there was like hints that they may or may not have known each other beforehand. How important was it to like include like a LGBT like relationship into that?
Yeah, so it was a personal story for me. I am gay, so I went into the cult. In my story, I was at school, I was in college, and I knew I was gay, and so I was really struggling with my faith and my sexuality at that time. And so I sort of felt that I needed to do something radical, because that was a lot of the language that was used. You need to be radical Christian, that's kind of what I grew up in. And so the radical thing I did was I left college to go to this cult. And they had like a whole fake school set up. so it seemed legit, right, at the time.
Right.
And they had all these other programs, and it seemed like a normal church organization. And so I really, during those years that I was there, I was like, I'm not gay. I'm trying not to be gay. I sort of went through a conversion therapy light program. And I left the cults. I come out, and that was kind of my story. And so I wanted that in the book because I really felt it was just a reflection of my story of losing myself to this religion, to this cult that I was in, and then sort of trying to piece together who I am and who I love, who I care about. And so that was sort of a thread that I had to include in the story. And I wrote this book actually during when this scandal was unfolding in 2023. It was actually, the scandal happened, and I think a month later I started writing, maybe less than a month. And so I really was dealing with all of these. The scandal kind of brought up all of these memories of my time there, and so I really was pouring that story into this book. And so I had to have the component of amnesia, of not knowing who you are or what you're supposed to be doing, having your identity kind of ripped out of you, but also still in this religious environment, knowing who you love and who you're attracted to. And so I wanted to include those things in the story.
Yeah, I really like that. I like that. I love the relationship, how it develops. And I like the idea in the book that you put in there that, like, no matter how much someone is like programmed to do something, their natural instinct is still there, because we see that a lot in Kestrel's character. Like, no matter how much they're trying to program him to behave in a certain way in the cult, his natural instinct still comes out in ways throughout the novel. Except for his growing hunger for human flesh. That's pure horror right there.
Yeah,
I love that. 'Cause one thing that horror fans will appreciate is that it doesn't flinch when it comes to extreme violence and intense gore. I love that. There's murder. There's like cannibalism, dissections, dismemberments. You name it. People getting disintegrated and all sorts of crazy shit. And
yeah.
did any of the graphic depictions of cannibalism and murder make you squirm while you were writing them?
There's only one that made me actually squirm, and that's in chapter 6. I think it's the one that most people tell me they had to stop. They either stopped reading or they were maybe eating lunch and had to stop there. I'll spoil it a little. There's a vegetable peeler, and I think
that part.
That's
right. Yeah, that
probably grossed me out the most when I thought of it.
Yeah, and the weird musky taste of it. Then when he describes the strange musky taste and the body odor smell and all, he's like,
because she smells, and that's that whole scene was just very
I can see that
visceral,
because he's like this tastes like she smells. Oh my god.
I thought about that when you're eating something and how like scents can remind you of things, and it's just like, oh, it's so awful. And I have a very sensitive nose. I smell things that other people do not smell. And I was just like, this is really hard for me to write, thinking about eating and the vegetable peeler and all that sort of thing.
Yes, I know that scene. But I really, as a horror fan, I was actually very pleased that it was a very splattery book. It was a very graphic horror book, because a lot of books now, like sometimes, like I'm the kind of guy that like I treat content warnings. Do you remember the old explicit lyrics sticker on CDs?
Yeah.
Remember those?
Yes.
Yeah, I treat content warnings like that. Like whenever I saw the sticker on a CD, I'd be like, okay, I need to pick that one up because it's going to be something I'm going to like. That's the way I treat content warnings. Other people like to shy them away. I'm like, no, I need to read this. Okay, graphic cannibalism, murder. Okay, I'm in.
Right.
And you don't hold back, which I applaud you for that one. Did you do any like historical research into like cannibalism or anything for this? Because I noticed there's like have you ever heard of like the Sawney Bean story from Scotland with the cannibal cult family living in the caves and whatnot?
Yeah, I've heard. I mean, I have heard about it. I did some research. I have been interested in like true crime, murder, horror for a long time. So I've picked up, different stories throughout the years, and I wanted to really focus on obviously cannibalism, but yeah,
True crime, right there.
true crime. Yeah, I love a true crime documentary. I love a cult documentary. I love anything like that. The weirder, the better.
Absolutely.
So I think I picked up a lot over time, and I did do some more research as I was writing, but I really focused in and kind of locked in to write this book. And so I kind of tuned the whole world out. And so I did research here and there when I needed to, figure out how something works, or muscle types, like what would be better to eat,
Right.
what would be harder to chew, which was not pleasant, but yeah, I've looked at a lot of stories, and it's hard because I don't want to just copy and paste a cannibal story. And so,
Right.
Obviously we have all these other elements in there. And so I just wanted to make it feel very connected to the overall story, and, connecting it back to the religion of it.
There was a novel that I compared it to in my review, which was Off Season by Jack Ketchum, which is one of my favorite horror novels. So which is also, it's about like a cannibal cult that like attacks these people, like they like live in caves and they attack these people living in a cabin in like Maine, and it's like a survival horror novel. And I was like, I loved Hinterland in the same way that I loved that, because there was a lot of action, a lot of intense violence. Your book had the religion angle, which made it a deeper read as opposed to just being a thriller.
Yeah.
But I remember I compared that favorably to Off Season. So like you can like if people out there watching this, if they want to know like what Hinterland, like if you want a comparable title, if you like Jack Ketchum's Off Season, you're gonna like Hinterland, like definitely. What was it about Quill and Crow Publishing that appealed to you to want them to release it? Did you approach them, or did they approach you?
So it's actually a kind of a longer story than just Hinterland. So I originally wrote a book that was a gay gothic romance. And I had this book, and I was pitching. So I was pitching a lot of places, and querying a lot of a couple different, agents and publishers. And I had known Quill and Crow for a while, and I knew that their specialty was more gothic and that sort of thing. But they were opening up to, more like dark fantasy, that sort of more pure horror too, in addition to the gothic. And so I originally pitched them my other book, which it's called The House on Garnet Hill, which is coming out this year, later this year. And so I had pitched them that book, and we were all set to go with that book, and it's still coming. And while I was like, I had like basically already signed everything with them, it was all good. And then I was writing Hinterland at the same time that I was like finalizing everything with Quill and Crow for my other book. And so through that, we got like, me and the editor-in-chief, Cassandra, we got connected, we started talking more. And then I was like, I'm going to query Hinterland. And there was like a pitch contest on what used to be Twitter. And so I was pitching that day, and she just DM'd me and was like, wait, like, I want to read this one too. And so she was like, I loved your other book. Like, let me read this one. So I was like, okay, sure. And she was like, I love this one. I think it's great. And she wanted this to be my debut novel. She thought it would, not that the other one's not great, but she was like, this one's going to make an impact. It's going to do really well. I have a feeling in my bones. So I was like, sure, like we can do Hinterland first, and then The House on Garnet Hill can come out later. That's totally fine. And then throughout that whole thing, I also wrote another book, and she was like, give me, I have to have it. So and that book's coming out at the end of March. So I really I was really drawn to the company, to Cassandra. She's always championed independent authors. She's been in indie publishing for a while. She obviously loves dark stories, haunting stories, that sort of thing. And she's like an advocate for, queer stories at a time when like not a lot of people are pulling back from LGBT stories. She's just like, nope, we're in this. So that was really my big draw to Quill and Crow.
Yeah, Cassandra's really cool, and A.L. Garcia, she's really cool too.
Yeah, she's really cool.
Yeah, and I actually, Quill and Crow, they've become in the past couple of years one of my favorite indie publishers. This year, my top 10 list, there was 3 of their books. There was yours, there was My Split Tongue, and Where Dark Things Rise. All excellent
Clark,
books. Yeah, like all excellent books. And I was just like, they've really moved. I mean, they have a really nice roster now of great authors and great books out there. They're probably my top 3 indie publishers right now.
Wow,
really,
I'll pass that on. They'll love to hear that. Yeah, it's a great team over there.
And really high quality books, like really high quality product, like not just like the actual physical books, like when you actually see them. I mean, they go a lot with the artwork, covers, like the actual physical books. Very good.
Yeah.
Critical Blast. They're another one that Critical Blast also goes all out with all their books, but in Quill and Crow also.
Yeah, they do really great work. I mean, Cassandra's really dedicated to publishing, high quality stuff. So it's great.
So what is your writing process like? Do you like to listen to music, or do you need complete silence? Do you write in day or night? What's your process?
Yeah, so I typically write at night. That's when I usually have the most time, and when I can sort of just like tune out the world and focus in. I sort of like, I do have music on in the background, something that I'm familiar with, so it won't distract me as much. Like I can't listen to anything new, because I'll be like, what are those lyrics? Although sometimes when I'm editing, I'll be in a little bit of silence because I'm so focused. But yeah, my writing process is typically I start months before a book. Before I actually start writing the book, I just gather different pieces that I find interesting. So sometimes it'll be quotes from authors, sometimes it'll be like themes. I'll usually type like small character descriptions, and sometimes I'll type like paragraphs and like dialogue, even, like back and forth. And this should happen at some point, And I usually have like, just central topics, and I do that for months. Months and months and months. And then typically I'll be like, okay, I'm starting. I have to start this. And typically I start it, and then I'm like, I don't know how to start this. And then I kind of go back and forth for a bit where I'm like working on it, and then I'm like, maybe I should work on something else. And I do this back and forth. I don't know why. I do this back and forth until one day everything just sort of clicks. Usually it's like I add some bit of information. I don't know if it's a quote, if it's a character that I needed, a different setting, but one day everything will just sort of click. And then I'm like focused, locked in, I'm ready to write. And that's pretty much, I'll just spend the next however long it takes, like really focused on writing. And so that's sort of my process.
I'm similar to that. It's definitely in the writing down paragraphs and dialogue, and like just out of order and out of sequence. Like I just I'll scribble notes down. I have files on my computer that for stories and novels that are just bits and pieces. And then, like you say, you've got this dialogue exchange, and then you know where it's going to go. You've got these paragraphs, and I used to write everything down in like little notes. So I used to have all these little bits of paper everywhere. But now I basically do it all on my computer. I have all these different files with all these like. I write everything that I write out of order, and then like in the editing process, I kind of assemble it all together, and I don't know how it works when it works,
Yeah.
but I usually write everything out of order.
Yeah, and I usually have some sort of outline, like I kind of know where I want to go. I also, not always, but I typically have sort of like chapter titles that I use as guides for where I want the story to go. And then I'll sort of like, of course, move things around, add things, subtract things, whatever I need to do, change titles if it comes to that. But yeah, I sort of outline everything and then I plug in all the stuff I already have. And then I sort of like work on filling in the rest and connecting it all.
Yeah, so you're kind of like me in that respect too, because I make like an outline, but I don't want to make it so detailed that I can't like improv in the way.
Right.
Because you have to have room, you have to have wiggle room, because as you're going, you always are getting like new ideas.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, yeah. I don't understand the writers that have like very intricate, like some of them write like very intricate like world Bibles and character outlines. They'll have like giant, you know, like entire folders full of stuff, and it's like, where's the like the spontaneity in that? Whatever.
I don't think I've ever done that. I do have one day I want to work on I have a fantasy trilogy idea. And for that, I think in one day, or I'd say one day, probably 2 days. Sorry about that. In like 2 days, I wrote like 10,000 words.
Wow.
Of just like, here's like the plot, here's the lore. So it doesn't happen often, but I've done it once, and we'll see if I ever write that book. But
okay, Logan, let's hop in the DeLorean and go back in time. What kind of kid were you growing up, and what led you to want being a writer?
I would say I was a storyteller. That's what I loved as a kid. I would always just sort of I was very introverted. I would really just like sit in my room, and I loved Legos, so I would like play with Legos.
Yes.
And like
that was my favorite toy growing up.
Yeah, I still have some. Like I still build some Lego sets sometimes. But I would like I remember my older brother had this big box just full of like random pieces, and I would like assemble like characters. And if someone else would like be like, well, this doesn't go with this, I'd be like, no, that's a character. You can't touch that. Like, please don't touch that. And so I would just make up these like little worlds. And I remember in like elementary school, we had to do a daily writing prompt, and my teacher, I would write these little mysteries, and she would get annoyed with me because she was like, you can't do another mystery, like you can't just keep doing mysteries. And I was like, please let me. And so I think that's just sort of where it began. I was always like thinking of things, telling stories. My family always says like I'm a really good liar, because I would just like say things sometimes, and like not meant to. I would just make up things like as a joke, and they'd be like, where'd you even come up with that? Like, I'm like, I don't know, you know? So I think that's always been sort of my thing. I've really been a storyteller for a long time, and I wanted to be a writer. I loved, I loved, some people are like fully readers, like they only read. Some people are like TV. I'm like everything. Give me a good TV show, give me a good book, give me a good video game. Like, yes. I love it all. I love the medium, and I love, like, as long as it's a good story, like a podcast, whatever it is, like, I'm into it. So I think I've always just been really interested in, like, creating worlds.
Which leads me to my next question, which is, what books or movies or video games or whatever had an impact on you, like the most impact on you growing up?
Yeah, that's a great question. What books had the most, or what media had the most impact on me? I think the first book that really hooked me was Hatchet by Gary Paulson.
I've got that book. I still have my copy of that.
Yeah, I still have my copy somewhere too. I don't know where, but I love that book. That one, I think, which is also, my first book being like this sort of wilderness story, was very fitting because I loved that series.
I can see that. I can see the connection now that you mentioned that.
I also really loved A Series of Unfortunate Events when I was young. Pretty much a classic for me. I still have all my books too. And then oh God, like this is a video game. Final Fantasy X was, I don't know if you know it, but it's, often regarded as one of the best like stories
Right.
in a video game. And so that one was really like the storyline in that was really impactful. Movies, okay, so which I could play video games and I could read books, but we weren't really allowed to watch a lot of like, I would say good TV or like good movies
Right.
growing up. But outside of like Disney, we could watch some of that, but I grew up very religious, so we weren't allowed to watch every Disney movie, but certain Disney movies we could.
Right.
And so like I didn't really watch movies and TV until like later in life. But I mean, movies like Arrival is one of my favorites. Oh God, I can't, but those were like a little later in life. But I think it was a lot more books and video games that shaped me in my earlier years.
I remember when I was in high school, I had a friend. He was he was in a religious family, and they wouldn't let him watch. This is like late high school. He was like 15, 16, 17. He'd never seen an R-rated movie because they wouldn't let him see R-rated movies. But he knew that I had an extensive like horror and science fiction collection. So he's like, dude, if I pay you, will you let me borrow like, Scream or Terminator 2 or something like that? I was like,
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, okay.
Sure, why not? Yeah.
Yeah, why not? But after a while, I stopped taking the money because I just liked letting him see the movies. But like, I remember that, and he's like, after he saw Terminator, I think Terminator 2 was the first one, and he'd never seen an R-rated movie before, and he's like, that was the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I think I want to say my first R-rated movie was The Passion of the Christ. So that's how like that was the only one we were allowed to see. Although I do
think that movie's hardcore, man. I mean, that movie's hardcore though.
Yeah, it really is. I can't remember, there was in like junior high, my friends, I was like staying over at their house and we watched this like Lindsay Lohan plays twins, but it's not The Parent Trap. And it's like she plays twins and one goes missing, and she's the main character is like the like bad twin, and they got separated at birth, and so they find her and she has all these like visions of like where her sister is and like taken by a murderer. And so I think that was the first like scary movie that I watched, and I think I was hooked a little bit, and I was like, that's interesting. It's probably not a great movie, but I'd have to go back and watch it. But yeah, since then I was like, oh, that's fun. And then I remember, I think the first horror movie I snuck out to see was The Unborn.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
it was, or maybe I don't think it was Paranormal Activity, but it was around that time. I think it was The Unborn that I saw first. And I remember getting home and my mom like knew somehow that I had gone to see like a movie I wasn't supposed to. I don't know if I was acting weird, but she was like, something's off here. And I'm like, so yeah.
But if you think about it, like even from a religious standpoint or a non-religious standpoint, the Bible can be seen as, I mean, there's a lot of horror in the Bible. Like, I mean, a lot of violence, a lot of murder. There's creatures, there's giants, there's angels, there's demons, there's devils, there's hell, there's all this like horrifying imagery.
Yeah.
So a lot. I mean, even if you're not a religious person, you can look at that as a text and go, man, there's a lot of crazy weird shit in this book, and a lot of, you can see the roots of a lot of horror. You can see in that, in like, especially in Western culture, because it's so rooted in like Judeo-Christian Islamic religion. You can see it, and you can see like the influence of that, and it's really deep in there in horror, because how many horror movies are there about like demons or demonic possession, or even something like a vampire, which is, you can see like it came from like Eastern religion, Eastern folklore, and stuff like that.
Right.
So there's a lot of that in horror. Is a lot of like it may be like twice removed from the original
Right.
like context, but it's there, and you can see the influence that like religion or the Bible has had, because it's a lot of horrifying stuff in that book.
Yeah, it's
For
it's so
sure.
funny because, you know, talking about this, I just remembered, like, I wasn't allowed to watch Halloween Town, but we
Right.
sat in church one Sunday and they played this like audio called 23 Minutes in Hell that was
I've
like
heard of that.
supposedly,
Yeah.
it's someone who like supposedly visited hell, and we couldn't go to like haunted houses, but we went to these things called judgment houses.
Right. I've heard of those.
And so it's like we grew up going and doing these like things, but because they were like Christian adjacent, it was
Mhm.
okay. But like horror movies,
Right.
that stuff was bad. So it's
Right.
funny.
Right. Yeah. In a way, that is kind of funny, because it's like, this is just as bad, if not worse, than that over there. Yeah. Though
Right.
I've heard of ones like they call them hell houses instead of
Yeah.
like haunted houses. At Halloween they'll have a hell houses.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, this is actually worse than a haunted house.
Yeah. No, it really was. Like I was like, oh God, this is crazy.
Okay. So finish this sentence. My favorite scene in Hinterland is.
Oh, that's really hard. I actually I love the opening scene. I You're gonna make me choose. I would say, okay, I'm gonna name like two or three because I can't choose. The opening scene, I love the opening scene. I think it's like such a strong way to start a story. I love the cabin. The cabin
Mhm.
is just like, oh, so good. And then I love At the Top of the Mountain. I think
Yeah.
those three are like my favorite scenes of the whole book.
There's The Unborn, for people who are not familiar with that movie. I got an old Fangora with it on the cover. That's
Yeah.
the Unborn right there.
Yeah.
The whole truth about demons. This is also known. It was known as The Jewish Exorcist when it came out. I remember
Really?
that.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, because it was based on like a Jewish W box and the demon in there. So yeah,
Gotcha.
interesting. But that's a good movie though. That
Yeah.
was actually a pretty good movie. But yes, I like the that scene at the top of the mountain. I won't blow it for people, but that was some intense stuff right there. That was
Yeah.
some truly inspired, intense stuff. I also like how, I don't want to spoil it for people either, but like the very end when Kestrel was crossing the river at the end, the part I'm talking about, the very, very end, and pieces start coming back to him. And I really love how that it comes full circle for him. I really like that. That's one of
Yeah.
my favorite scenes. The very, very end right there.
Yeah.
And I like how
it's
we
a really
don't.
good.
I like how we don't actually get all the pieces filled in for us. He gets them filled in, but we don't get them all filled in, which is oddly fulfilling as a reader. I like that.
It's a controversial choice because some
Mhm.
people really did not like that there wasn't more information given. And I got a lot of people were like, I need to know more. And there was actually a little bit more after the ending sentence, after that whole scene, there
Mhm.
was like a little more, and it was cut to make it more impactful.
Mhm.
I think some of the people who were like, I needed to know more would have really loved that extra scene, but I like the way it ended, and I do like the circular moment of it where it like kind of comes back to the beginning.
All right. This is my favorite part of every show I do, is what I call the
Okay.
lightning round of nerd questions. I do this with every guest I have. This is kind of like free word association. I ask a
Okay.
question, and the first thing that pops in your mind, you answer. Okay.
Cool.
All right. Are you ready?
I don't know if I'm ready, but here we go.
Okay. All right. All-time favorite movie.
Oh, Arrival.
Okay. All-time favorite horror movie.
Hereditary.
Oh my God, I love that movie.
Yeah,
That
great
movie scared the hell out of me. There's only two horror movies that actually scare me. Most movies don't scare me. I think they're cool, but they don't actually frighten me. The original Pet Sematary and
Okay,
that Hereditary. Those two movies scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, the original Pet Cemetery, the part that scared me was Zelda up in the attic. That scared the hell out of me. And I was like an adult when I saw that movie. I didn't see that movie until I was like 30. And I was like, what? When Zelda comes crawling across the bedroom, I was like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
And Hereditary was so slow and like, it was almost so normal. And then the part that scared the hell out of me the most was when the mom, she had just gone to the like the seance, right? And she was driving home and she hears that click in the car when it's totally quiet. And the first time I heard that, I was like, I was like, oh my God, that freaked me out so bad. And it was such a subtle thing, but it worked so well. And then it just got weirder from there. And like the end of that movie is like, by the time you get to the end of that movie, it's like anything can happen.
It's like, what just happened? Yeah, totally.
Yeah. The end of that movie, yeah, exactly. You're like, what did I just see? Like, I gotta watch that again. But yeah, when she's in the car and she just hears that click, and I was just like, I was like, oh my God.
After I've shown that movie to a few friends, and afterwards I'll just like wait a few minutes after the movie ends, and I'll make the clicking noise, and they'll be like, "Stop!
Right.
You have to stop!" I'm like,
oh, that's just evil, man. That's so cool. Oh, okay. Favorite guilty pleasure movie? You know, the one that's not that good, but that you love anyway.
Clue. Have you ever seen Clue? The movie?
I've seen that movie. Yes, I was just thinking about that movie the other day. That's a good one.
I love that movie. It's an old movie. It's from like the 80s, but I really love that movie.
I like how there's multiple endings. That's probably my favorite part.
Yeah, I thought that was like brilliant. People hated it in the theaters, but I thought it was fun.
Yeah. Okay. What's your favorite novel of all time?
Favorite what?
Favorite novel. Favorite book. Favorite novel.
Favorite novel. Oh, I'm so torn. I would say I really liked. Probably favorite Mexican Gothic is up there for me. The Haunting of Hill House. I think they're tied. I really love a Gothic story. I think
Shirley Jackson's awesome, man.
I love Shirley Jackson. Like, my next book is much more Gothic, and it's like, I just love Shirley Jackson so much. I think I read The Lottery in college, and I was like, my brain, clicked with it.
Okay, favorite TV show all time.
The Haunting of Hill House. I know it's not even close to the novel, but it was so beautiful, and it was so like creepy when I first watched it. And there's a scene in the car where she like comes forward and screams, and like that scared me so much because I wasn't expecting it, and I love that one.
All right, your 5 favorite musical performers.
5 favorite musical performers: Phoebe Bridgers, Paramore, or Haley Williams, both and. Oh God. I'm trying to think who I've seen in like concert. Boy Genius, but that's also like Phoebe Bridgers. I'll say that. Boy Genius, third. Noah Kahan. I just love like sad music. Who else?
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I love The Cure. The Cure is one of my favorite bands. Yeah. Florence and the Machine. That's a good band.
Like, I just love like poetic, sad, like really deep music.
Yeah. There's not. I'm like that too. Like my favorites are probably like The Cure, Depeche Mode, The Smiths, that kind of thing. Which they all get that same sort of line through. Yeah. They're kind of like, a little depressing, but they're really, really good. Like the music's really good.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, favorite food.
Favorite food? Oh, I have no idea. The first thing I thought of was like Indian food. I don't know. I love
That's good
Indian
enough.
food. Actually, you know what? My favorite food is probably sushi. Like,
Oh yeah,
I'm down for
sushi's good.
sushi anytime. Actually, that's it.
Okay, favorite junk food.
Ooh, this is like only people in Ohio and Kentucky know this, but it's chips. I love chips, but specifically there's a spicy barbecue chip by a company called Grippo,
Hmm.
and they make one of the best like spicy barbecue chips. It's so good. But I love chips.
Hmm.
Any kind of like salty snacks, like a chip or a anything like that.
Cool. Okay,
Yeah.
what was the name of your first pet?
The name of my first pet was Lizzie.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, first celebrity crush.
I don't know how to answer this because I don't have celebrity crush it. Like there's no one that I can really think of that I was obsessed with. And people have asked that over the years and I'm like, I don't know. I really don't. Like I can't think of anyone ever.
Okay. If you were a superhero, what would be your code name, your superpower, and who would be your arch nemesis?
Ooh, that's really hard. I think like some sort of like telekinesis. I feel like I would have that. Um, a name? Oh God, I should have thought about this beforehand, but there was no way to. Um, who would be my arch nemesis? Probably anyone stupid. No.
I
There's
love
a
that answer.
Yeah, just like I would be like, what are we doing here? Like, I don't know. Yeah, I think those would be. I don't know a name. Like, I don't know. Pass. I don't know. I really don't know. That's a hard one.
Okay. Hollywood options Hinterland for a movie. Who directs and which actors would you love to see in the lead role?
Ooh, okay. Who directs? Uh, I would really love. Um, I would love Ari Aster, but he writes his own and he directs his own, so I don't think he
Yeah.
directs others. I love Mike Flanagan, so I think he would do great. I think he's adapting like half the entire Stephen King universe right now, so he's so
Mhm.
busy. But one of those would be great. Yeah, I really like those two directors. Those are at the top of my list. Who plays Kestrel? This is a thing that a lot of people have asked me about this, and
Mhm.
again, maybe it's because I'm not in like I don't have a celebrity crush. Like I don't know, like I know celebrities, but I don't know who I'd want to play Kestrel. I think it would be interesting to find like a nobody. But obviously
That
in
would make
Hollywood
sense.
that's not how it's really done these days. You have to have a big
Mhm.
name star. Um for some reason, Lynx, I have one for Lynx from the story, so
Mhm.
I'll say that. I would love Rebecca Ferguson.
Yeah, I could see
I
that.
think I just saw her as Lynx for some reason. I don't know who would play Kestrel, but I kind of like it being like someone lesser known.
Yeah, I could see that because like he doesn't really know who he is anyway. So you wouldn't
Yeah.
want like some big name. You wouldn't like want Brad Pitt to be Kestrel or
Right,
something.
yeah. I think you wouldn't want someone like that's super obvious. Like maybe you know them from a thing or two, but not a big name.
All right. Related question. A biopic is made on the life of Logan Spurgeon. What's the name of the movie and which actor plays you?
What actor plays me? See, these celebrity questions. I'm so bad at them. I'm so sorry. Um, what is the name of the movie? God, Trapped in a Cult, the Logan Spurgeon story. Coming
Oh,
coming out of a cult, the Logan Spurgeon story.
that would be
Who
good.
plays me? Yeah, something like that. I think that would be fun. Um, now who plays me again? This is a hard. I have people say I look like people, but I don't see it, so it's hard for me to say. And they're all older, so I
Hmm.
don't know who would play like young me. Maybe I don't know his name. The kid who's like Percy Jackson right now. That's the only thing. And just because he has curly hair.
I can see that. I can see
And
that.
that's the only person that I can think of.
Okay. You're stranded on a deserted island. What three things do you take with you?
Ooh, three things. Well, can I take a boat? Can I take like
Sure,
survival
yeah.
equipment?
Yeah, yeah.
Ooh, well, I think I would take obviously I would take a fire starter kit. And then I would take, we won't say a boat because I'm actually stranded. I would take
Right.
like some kind of like mm, a water purifier. And then
That's a good
I would take like my Kindle loaded with a bunch of books. I
one.
think like that would be a pretty good setup.
That would be good.
Yeah.
Okay. You get to have dinner with any three historical figures. Who are they and what do you ask them?
I would love, okay, Shirley Jackson. I would love. Edgar Allan Poe, I think
Oh,
would
that'd be a good
be
one.
a fun guest. And they're all authors or writers. Emily Dickinson. I just think that combination would be really interesting for a dinner party.
That would be.
And I would just pick their brains about writing like dark stories, like where, and for them, they were so inventive at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Emily's not writing like dark stories, but like her poetry is really like really good. So I think I would love to pick their brains about that.
If I got to have dinner with Edgar Allan Poe, I would want to know who Reynolds was because that was like when he
Yeah.
was dying. I would because they're like no one's quite figured that out. Who's Reynolds?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, I would want to ask him. Okay, first question: who is Reynolds? And why were you wearing somebody else's clothes? And when they found you, and it's like I would want to know all
So
those
weird.
I would want to know all the circumstances around his mysterious demise because I'd be like, we'll never know, but it's fascinating. And it's almost like the perfect ending for him because of the kind of guy he was.
Yeah.
Like, just to have that kind of mystery, that shroud of mystery about him, even to the end. Okay, favorite vacation spot?
Ooh, I love the Appalachian Mountains. Like I love the mountains for a vacation, like a cabin in the woods, like let me go walk a trail, let me go swim in a lake. That's my sort of like normal vacation. My favorite place I've ever been to was Iceland, which was just
Oh,
like
cool.
the coolest place. So,
I got a friend who lives there. I always wanted
oh,
to go
really?
there.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so awesome. It's really cool.
Okay, you meet your 13-year-old self. What advice do you give the younger you?
I think I would say don't be afraid to be who you are or do what you want to do. I think for a lot of my life, I sort of like I went to a doomsday cult because I was afraid of coming out. I went to a certain school because I was afraid of moving to a bigger city. And so I think I would tell him like just take risk,
Mm-hmm.
I don't stop writing. I would say like don't stop. Like keep writing, keep telling stories because I stopped writing for a long time. And I
Mm-hmm.
wrote like probably, I mean, not like a full book, but I wrote like chapters and chapters of a book when I was younger, and I was like, keep doing it. I stopped, and I would tell them to keep going, keep taking those risks, and do what you want to do. Like, don't do what you think you should do.
Excellent advice. You find that genie's lamp. What three things do you wish for?
Ooh, a genie's lamp. Ooh, 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 ooh. Okay. World peace. No. Besides all those sort of like altruistic things, I think I want like a mid-century modern home, like a classic like designer home like that. And they're so expensive now. Homes are so expensive in general, but so I think I would want that. I would want I would love a second me who could also be writing. Like I have so many like book ideas and so many like short story ideas.
I
Or
know
even
that
maybe,
feeling.
yeah, I'm like, I need another me to like actually do all these, like to actually write all these, and or actually, I guess the third wish, which I would one day love to have like a movie adaptation of my works, and I would love to have like a production company one day, and I think that would be really fun. Those are the things that like that's what I've always wanted to do, of like write books and like make movies. I think that would be really really
Awesome.
awesome. Yeah.
That is awesome. So what's next for Logan Spurgeon?
What's next? I have a book coming out in March called Sourwood. It's a gothic novel.
I've seen
That's
posts for
coming up.
the cover
Yeah.
of that looks very interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool. The designer Faye Lane, she's really great.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's a great story. You can read a full synopsis, on my website and on my socials, but that's coming up. I'm going to be doing a couple of events in Columbus, Ohio this year. I'm going to be in Boston. I'm going to be maybe in New York City for some
Oh, cool.
horror events. So we're planning some other stuff. So we'll see if, I can make it to all of them this year. I have another book, like I said, mentioned earlier, coming out. It's coming out in December of 2026, which is called The House on Garnet Hill, another gothic romance story. And then I'm working on a new book right now. So we'll see where that goes. It's not horror, it's not gothic. It's more like just a speculative fiction story. So it maybe it'll end up being more scary, but right now it's just sort of like a general book, general fiction, speculative fiction book. We'll see where it goes. I don't know. It's kind of a new territory for me, and I don't know how I feel.
Excellent. Any shout outs you'd like to give?
Okay. I'm going to shout out Quill and Crow Publishing House, Cassandra, Lisa, my editor, Alma, who does marketing. I thank you for them for everything. My family, to my new nephew that was just born a few months ago. I love him. To my other nephew, I also love you as well. My friends, Rebecca, Hannah, Jake, you're everything to me. I don't know who else to shout out. My mom, thanks for everything. Yeah, I think that's like pretty much all I can think of to shout out right now, but I'm super grateful for Quill and Crow Publishing House, and then, everyone who's done interviews and podcasts and things like that. So it's super exciting. So thank you to everyone.
Where can people find you online?
Yeah, so my website is loganspurgeon.com. You can find me on social media. I think every handle is at Logan Spurgeon. I'm pretty sure. I just got my TikTok to be all the same. So yeah, at Logan Spurgeon. You can type in Hinterland Logan and it should pull it up on any platform, every platform. I'm not active on all of them as much as I'd like to be, but yeah, you can catch me everywhere.
Awesome. I want to thank you for being a guest tonight, Logan. It was really fun talking to you, and we look forward to having you back on the show again when your next projects come out. Sourwood, I would especially like to read. That sounds very interesting. And don't forget, everyone, head over to Amazon and check out Hinterland, or go directly to thecrowshop.com if you'd like to order from the publisher. And if you enjoyed tonight's show, remember, like, share, subscribe to Critical Blast on YouTube. And that's it for tonight. The damn show is done. Bye.
Bye.